The way we negotiate public life has changed. This sounds simple and obvious, but only because it is fundamentally true and that change has been profound. The change is a result of cyberculture, including the introduction of mobile internet-connected technologies, the rise of social media, and the prevalence of artificial intelligence and algorithmic-based advertising. The concept of the public self is not new. It is indeed ancient, but the methods, modes, and registers of the public self are new, and they connect to digital techniques of presentation and mediation. The idea of the public self is not new at all. Print technologies, including pamphlets, posters, books, newspapers, and magazines, have been describing the exploits of others acting in public and have been very important techniques for creating the idea of the public sphere, and of course the figures of note who operate in it. Film, television, and radio intensified the representation of public figures and the mediation of individuals we call celebrities. These technologies have meant that we've been able to collectively discuss, critique, and interrogate these people as if they are directly known to us. The techniques and technologies of representation once dominated the media landscape. Now, the legacy media industries compete for our attention with games, mobile media, social media, and streaming media, technologies that allow us to present ourselves and to create a new type of public sphere or public spheres. The shift from the representational media to the presentational media paradigm means that the public sphere is no longer a unitary concept, but a fragmented array of semi-public and semi-private spaces that mediatize various aspects of contemporary and everyday life. Mediatization means that all forms of public and semi-public life are seen through the various media lenses of legitimation, contestation, privilege, and especially personal narratives and shared experiences. Mediatization is how the formation of the contemporary self is now constructed and displayed through technologies and forms of expression that resemble media forms. In other words, we communicate through printed text, through images, through video and audio, in a way that reconstructs our identity through these various signifying systems. We mediatize and present ourselves when we are playing online games, when we're using digital distribution platforms like Steam or Xbox, when we present ourselves on Instagram, where we frame, edit, and share our idealized selves. We even mediatize ourselves algorithmically when we choose content on YouTube and Netflix, because it trains the recommendation algorithms about who we are and what we like to watch. What is crucial to realize here is that we are not the only agents involved in the mediatization and presentation of the self. There is a huge range of human and non-human actors involved in this new type of public self, meaning that you are not fully in control of your presentation and your mediatization. For example, your audience can like and comment. The platforms you use often own the intellectual property rights in the materials that you share. This is what we call intercommunication, which is the blending of media and communication with different types of interpersonal communication, through which different types of agency can be enacted. Take, for example, a post someone makes on Twitter. Maybe they even made it 10 years ago. That tweet goes viral. It's picked up and it's discussed on Reddit, or maybe it's posted to Facebook, where it then goes to Reddit. From there, the legacy media picks it up and starts to include it in their news stories, in their print, TV bulletins, talkback radio, and possibly a website. Maybe they then tweet and the circle starts again. As people click on the tweet or the post, if they upvote it on Reddit or like it on Facebook, they are generating advertising revenue for Google and Facebook and the lesser-known corporations that own Reddit, like Advanced Publications, who interestingly also owns Turnitin, another example of intercommunication. Each time you're forced to submit material that is intended for one audience to the company via their platform, that company makes a copy of your work. It uses your work to train its machine learning algorithms, effectively taking your intellectual property and using it for its commercial gain. This is the consequence of intercommunication. It is through intercommunication, mediatization, and presentation that we understand the new public self as a persona. To capture this constructed fabrication, produced and presented public self that goes beyond our past notions of a public personality or celebrity and becomes an elemental part of literally billions of people worldwide, we are drawn to a word and a concept that expresses the very sense of the artifice of identity. A couple of things that you need to think about a persona, and I cannot underline this enough. A persona is not a brand. A personal brand is not a persona. A brand or a brand identity or a personal brand might be part of a persona, but it is not the entirety of a persona, and this is why. The persona is not the individual. A persona appears to be an individual because of the way an individual organizes their persona publicly as a projection and a performance of individuality. But as we've already indicated, there are a range of other human and non-human actors that also produce and perform the persona collectively. And we'll explore that concept in more detail in later videos. Personas are a collection of digital objects, platforms and systems and technologies. In many instances, you cannot even perceive all of the elements that make up your online self. So again, a persona is not a brand. A brand can be part of a persona, but a brand is simply a collection of digital objects that are part of a larger network assemblage of features that make up the persona. The persona is not the collective. A persona indexically points to a collective, whether it's your Facebook profile that has a group of friends or your Instagram profile that has a list of followers. Your persona is embedded in a collective system. This means that a persona is a negotiation between the individual and the collective. A persona involves labor to produce, manage, and maintain, which is often unpaid work that generates intellectual property for others. In most instances, you do not own the persona or the material on the platform that is collectively assembling your online public self. However, this does create important situations of agency, particularly industrialized and commercialized agency, where you do have some say over your expression of the public self. And again, we'll look at this in more detail in future videos. Let's take an example. A YouTuber persona is a negotiation between themselves, the platform, and their audience. The same goes for sites like eBay, where a seller is a persona in a negotiation between their products, their consumers, and the platform. Sites like Instagram have been highly successful for an entire class of advertising and promotional workers we call influencers, whose persona is being lent to particular brands in order to convince their collective audiences to invest in those products. Influencers are the most recent forms of a familiar public figure we previously called stars or icons or superstars or celebrities. Basically, famous people who are dependent on their mediatization in representational media. What is interesting about celebrities is that they have taught us how to use presentational media to their advantage, largely escaping from much of the control systems previously in place in legacy media, and most often taking control of their own personas. Celebrities have been instrumental in teaching us how to handle the industrialized agency and the managed collective production of the online self, which has helped inform the way influencers and other forms of micro-celebrity act online. Influencers are an example of the way that the notion of celebrity has changed because of the mediatization, intercommunication, and industrialized agency that has enabled the rise of micro-celebrities. Micro-celebrities, first identified by Alice Marwick and Terry Senft, are not micro because they are small or have a small audience, but rather because the organization of labor is no longer connected to the traditional macro infrastructure of the broadcasting and publishing and other legacy media industries. There is an entirely new infrastructure that has its own consequences and problems. But it is undeniable that the micro celebrity has greater control over the presentation of their public selves, to a degree. We have seen a huge proliferation of micro celebrities, from beauty YouTubers to Minecraft game streamers. But remember, the persona is not the individual, it is also the collective, or rather, the negotiation between the individual and the collective. So, the last concept I want to introduce in this video is the idea of the micro-public. The micro-public is the expression of the individual's participation in the collective part of persona. Micro-publics, again, are not small, but rather they are collections of connections between an individual human and the non-human actors arrayed in the constellations of a network. For example, you have a micro-public of Facebook followers, if you use Facebook. But you also have a separate but probably overlapping micro-public audience on Instagram. Simultaneously, you are part of the micro-public of others' online personas. You might be part of a persona micro-public on Patreon, on Twitter, on Etsy, on Snapchat, or Twitch. And when you create a persona on these platforms, you have to work to build your persona and manage it effectively across these services intercommunicatively by mediatizing your online public self. So that's it for this very brief introduction to persona. We're going to explore all these concepts in later videos. So thanks for watching, and I'll talk to you in the next video.